Sheldon is the kind of guy who'd steal from his crush to, quote, get to know her better, only to fold immediately for another girl who robbed him, and then still have the audacity to say something this delusional.
Hold on there, Jen. You don't want to obliterate your one true chance at happiness.
On that alone, you should be in jail forever.
You know, I wish I could say I made all that up or took it out of context, but no. Sheldon really is this foul. Like, I review shits for a living, but my life as a teenage robot might have one of the worst love interests I've ever seen. That's right, we are talking we are talking Panini levels of bad here. And in some ways, I'd argue Sheldon is worse. As yes, Panini takes a page out of LePue's playbook in not being able to take a hint. However, while that's bad comedic excess, Sheldon's behavior skews more realistic in way more sinister ways. Rather than invading her personal space, he's invading her privacy, lying to her, trying to control her taste in men, and just overall being way into the business of a girl who has told him repeatedly that she doesn't want to date his creepy self. And the show, on top of all of this, keeps acting like they might be endgame. So you know, yuck. All this nasty builds to a weird situation in an otherwise stellar show. My Life as a Teenage Robot is great. Sheldon, however, is trash, and the show can't make up its mind about what it's going to do with them and him specifically. As I remember wanting them to get together as a kid, but watching it now, well, how else can I say this?
I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk, I hate the way that you dress.
Let's break down this train wreck of a character and how the story uses him, and the sad reality that every girl you know has probably had a friend like this. This is way longer than I expected, but we have to do it. Okay, let's talk shit. Though before that, side note, I made a sleep study channel called Sarcastic Vibes. Go check it out if you want background noise for any reason. Just dropped an hour of Fiona and Cake thoughts. And fun fact, Sarcastic Vibes was denied monetization because I was stealing content from myself. Which, you know, that isn't annoying in the slightest. For those unfamiliar with My Life as a Teenage Robot's game, Teenage Robot is a story of XJ9, aka Jenny Wakeman, a robot made by a war criminal who decided to go freelance. Taking a second crack at creating the perfect machine to defend the Earth, Professor Wakeman spent some time spitballing ideas, locking her defective kids in the basement, and then creating her masterpiece, XJ9. Now, in the heights of hubris, the doctor thought that if she can make a robot that can save the world, she can handle a teenager. She was wrong. Jenny immediately caught ye old Disney princess disease, with the plot ensuing from there, breaking out of the house, making friends, with her mom deciding to enable this as, why not? I'll be right in the end.
When you get a little older, you'll see things my way. Now be a good robot and go destroy that meteor.
So yeah, her mom sucks, Jenny's cool, and this show slapped. Teenage Robot was a high school action comedy about Jenny needing to save the world and deal with teen drama along the way, with all her issues being exaggerated because, you know, she's a robot. While not the biggest success, TR was a blast to watch, being one of the few female-led action cartoons of the time, with it even being rare for having Jenny's predominantly male supporting cast not being obsessed with her. The Legend of Korra's roster, this was not. And then there's fucking Sheldon.
Hi, Jenny.
Now, before I rip this man to shreds, I will concede that while he sucks hard, Jenny is by no means a saint. Petty, temperamental, and willing to throw someone under the bus because of peer pressure. But as we'll see, those flaws make Jenny more interesting as she is realistically flawed. She acts like a teenager for better and for worse. But at the end of the day, she's still a good person who means well. We like her, she has layers, while Sheldon has only one, being creepy.
Thanks so much for your help. Hope to see you around sometime. Bye.
So Sheldon starts the series getting bullied, and after witnessing how he acts, I almost wish it kept happening. As while not the full villain behavior we'd witness later, the way he treats Jenny is never not weird.
You're just like Captain Crush, only better. You're a girl.
The two first meet with Jenny saving Sheldon from some bullies. Sheldon was getting mugged in woodshop class with the teacher deciding it was none of his business. Now this could be the beginning of a meaningful connection. A way to explain why Sheldon fell in love with Jenny, as yeah, she saved him. She stood up for him when no one else would. Rescue romance is a tale as old as time, not original, of course, but who cares? It works. And it could've, but Sheldon's crush on Jenny immediately gets complicated by the fact that he's not just interested in her because she saved him. He's also into her because she's a robot.
Please assume the position.
Hot damn! I've been looking for one of those for years.
Sheldon has a robot fetish. That's the simplest way I can describe the thoughts going through this teen boy's head. Jenny saved him from some bullies, but those bullies were also messing with a metal statue he made of his favorite robot superhero. But then a robot superhero came in and saved him, and their interactions afterwards make Sheldon's feelings for Jenny just feel a little bit off. That it wasn't just what she did, it's also what she is. So even if it's in contrast to how the rest of the school gives her flack for being a robot, Sheldon being into her because of the fact doesn't mean it's that much better. It's on the other end of the spectrum, but still part of the same objectification that really follows Jenny wherever she goes. And it will also lead to Sheldon acting entitled and thinking he can just figure out what makes her tick to make her like him. If Sheldon was just into her for saving him, that's one thing, but the fact that he's into her for being a robot gets played up over and over again till there's a stank on Sheldon that just never goes away. I mean, whatever genuine feelings he might have had to feel like a fetish rather than a true emotional connection, which, as we'll see, is what Jenny is truly looking for. To be treated like everyone else, not looked down upon or put on some pedestal for what she is. However, we'll get into the pedestal thing, as we also gotta talk about how Sheldon acts in this first, and yes, the first episode, as Sheldon is pretty much that one guy every girl has dealt with at minimum once in their life.
Good morning, Jenny.
See, after Jenny saves him, he stands there gawking about how she's a robot, with her needing to remind him that she needs a little help getting this thing fixed. And he helps her, screwing in a screw, then making things weird by being so awestruck he ends up flexing that grip strength by refusing to let go of her hand. Jenny naturally tries to just excuse herself from this situation, only for Sheldon to remember, oh shit, she can walk away? So he makes some excuse to go follow her, with Jenny, a woman strong enough to bend steel, being unable to give a hard no, as even she is being held hostage by social niceties, and the rest of the school is dragging her for it.
Hey, Jenny, what's the name of your new pet?
Please wait till after class to ridicule Jenny about her boyfriend.
The last one was her teacher, by the way. Just associating with Sheldon is getting Jenny mocked, so while not the nicest thing in the world, you get why she decides that since she didn't ask for any of this, Jenny just ditches him. Except, whoop, he's in her classroom and her locker.
There you go.
Thanks, Sheldon. Sheldon!
Hi, Jenny.
Yeah, this is the exact moment Sheldon goes from a little confused to an active problem. As you can sympathize with a socially awkward kid with a crush, so many of us were, but there's a very fine line between sympathetic and creepy, with him hiding in her locker to ask Jenny out just being the moment that the show crosses that line for me. And we just never recover from this. As from this point on, it's not oblivious, it's stalking. Rest of the episode is just him following her around, trying to get her attention, with her trying her best to give him the slip. She doesn't want to just yell at the guy, but he keeps missing all the signs that he's scaring the maidens, and in fact doubles down on getting too involved in her life after school, which this starts again to the thing that makes him worse than Panini for me. While she's just pink Pepe Le Pew, Panini's still an exaggeration of the boy crazy girl, which exists, but not many people are gonna be faking insanity to baby trap a 10-year-old. Sheldon, in contrast, is a way more realistic depiction of a guy with a crush that just isn't into him, yet he won't let it go, giving an ick that just makes it feel worse, especially in hindsight. It's that situation where people want to let the other person down nicely, but the blow is so soft it goes unnoticed. Can't raise your voice and don't want to make a scene. Think the guy doesn't deserve to be yelled at, or you just don't want to look like a problem for setting a boundary, so you hold back. It gets to the point where it'd be easier if the guy was just awful so nobody would blame you for blowing him up. But instead, like Sheldon, the dude becomes a pest. One that some people just learn to live with. Also, holy shit, I just realized that guy is wearing a noose.
She loves me not. That's the story of my life, boys. I was too, boss.
Sheldon sucks even in his very first episode. Jenny's trying to do her job, but Sheldon keeps showing up and getting in the way. Doesn't have the stomach to just say, hey, we should go out. Instead, he's dancing around the question, saying he invented something that could make her job easier, but really he means Jenny will have more time for other things, aka him.
Extra time for, like, say, dating?
Yeah, Sheldon's a simp, and in some episodes he is straight up an incel. Even his attempts at helping are more his wants than her needs. The villains were good as God, then Sheldon fucks it all up.
See, you just point and...
This pattern continues. Everyone in town thinks they're dating, humiliating Jenny, who has to deal with everyone assuming things about her while Sheldon is in oblivious town. Then he gets kidnapped. Abducted by the Heartbreak Gang, a bunch of villains who get broken up with once and make it their whole personalities, it's here, and being in earshot of them calling Sheldon her boyfriend that makes Jenny finally snap.
Sheldon is not my boyfriend. I don't even know him. He's just some crazy loser stalker geek. He's not my boyfriend. He's not my friend. He's not my nothing.
She did not tell a single lie. Like really, she doesn't know Sheldon. He is a creep who has been following her around all day, getting her away. It's harsh, but it's accurate. This roast is enough to break his heart and convince the rest of his people to let him go, only for Sheldon to do the first decent thing he's done all day, saving Jenny from the bad guys, which fine, cool. Good on Sheldon for not being terrible. I think the ending to the episode is weird in what it's going for versus what happened. As yes, Jenny was suffering from peer pressure into ditching Sheldon this entire story. They were giving her shit for being just near him, so she tried to avoid him, didn't really give him a chance. Hence, it kinda makes sense that at the end of the episode, she would try and give him a chance. After everything she said in her rant, he still came back to save her, broke his prize statue in the process, and he did in fact pay her back for what she did to him. So, in thanks, she fixes the statue, and even fulfills his dream of making it fly. This kinda works. Except it doesn't because the show doesn't address Sheldon's behavior.
Hi, Jenny.
Dude was obsessing over Jenny, making her feel uncomfortable every second he was around, with all that getting swept under the rug because he decided to not be a terrible person and let her die. The story doesn't have him cop to how he was acting was bad, that Sheldon ignored her boundaries. Instead, it's a learning moment for Jenny that he did one bare minimum nice thing, so she looks past everything else, ending with her begrudgingly saying maybe they can hang out sometime as friends, only for him to hear, oh, I have a shot.
As friends.
Friends?
Friends.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
This boy didn't learn a damn thing. Like, the episode really had him stalk her, and she's rolling her eyes like, oh, you. So, yeah, you're a character. Sheldon acted like a creep, did one decent thing, and now Jenny is stuck dealing with him for the rest of the series. We can't even say that this is the start of some genuine romantic subplot, one where he learned to be better, as that's never what happens. He never cleans up his act. And she clearly tells him that they are only ever gonna be friends. More is just not on the table, with Sheldon never respecting that. Instead, he would just continue to obsess, with his behavior being the same levels of creepy before exploding into doing some genuinely, horrifically terrible things. But again, the episode perfectly demonstrates a kind of guy that so many people have to deal with, only for then the series to say, yeah, he's gonna stick around. With his behavior and this driving me crazy, as in story he never gets called out for it, and he never gets called out for it by Jenny once. And when they do address something about Sheldon, it's made unserious.
Women, you can't live with them, you can't outrun them.
To keep things moving and to get to the actually terrible things he's done, Sheldon is still head over heels for her. She said friends, he said bet, with the next time he plays a big role being him just giving her a makeover. Now Jenny proves that she has some issues herself, as she wants to look like the other girls and get her ears pierced, which she doesn't have. So rather than just asking a friend to do her a solid, she flirts with Sheldon to get him to do what she wants, which is bad and a little bit scummy. We do not condone, but since she never does this shit again, I am kinda looking past it, as I'm doing this for her and I am gonna look past an even bigger thing later. But personally, Jenny is allowed to be flawed and I'm here for this. Sheldon ends up giving her Dumbo-sized ears, with even her mom laughing at her for it. Local mean girls actually give Sheldon props because they can't imagine he'd do her this dirty unintentionally, except no, he's just too obsessed to know better.
I mean, any brilliant misunderstood guy with unbelievable technical know-how would have done the same.
Proving how not all fans make great creators, as the bias can be a little blinding. Also, he compares her to an elephant.
You're just jealous. You can't stand that she's a hero and beautiful. Who could deny the majestic elephant, its enticing tusks, or the gambling ibex, its graceful horn?
Jenny keeps living in that ignorance, with only one of the villains being willing to laugh in her face. So, being a queen, she rips off her ears and uses them to beat his ass. Later, she drops the ears off to Sheldon, who is still saying she needs to ignore all of her haters, but the fad is done, she's over it. Though she did still take an obnoxiously big nose as what seems like a gag. Which, okay, fine, that's a good laugh, this is funny, I enjoy it. But sadly, this is the least annoying their relationship ever gets, as the next time we see them, it's a doozy. Here though, fine. This whole relationship has that early 2000s sitcom energy where you feel like something probably will happen. Sheldon is still this weird lovesick puppy, she's not that nice to him, but at the end of the day, at least they just want what's best for each other. Sheldon did an operation if he didn't agree personally, which is a breath of fresh air compared to the absolutely heinous, disgusting, awful, and vile trick he tries to pull the next time we see him. That's right, it's time we talk about the silver shell.
Stand aside, little This is a job for a real hero.
So just gonna say this before we get into it, I remember this episode being bad. Just thinking about it for longer than 2 seconds makes it obvious that Sheldon and what he did was fucked up. But it's actually all the stuff around the silver shell that truly makes Sheldon a piece of shit to me. See, Sheldon is back to his old tricks again, obsessing over Jenny, inventing gizmos to throw caps at her head so he can sneak in front of her. Because what's being genuine if you have a scheme instead? Locking the door just so he can open it, with Jenny just having to roll her eyes. As they're friends now, he's in the group, and the show won't let her kick him out. Which frankly, her inviting him into the friend group was the first big mistake they ever made. But tired of pretending to be subtle, he asked Jenny out on a date. To a lizard exhibit, with her needing to catch herself from speaking her mind.
Date?
Gee, Sheldon, I don't know if I want to spend all of Saturday with lizards.
You. She wanted to say you. Take the hint. Shoving this exhibit in her face all day, Jenny is at her wit's end. So she ends up trying to set a boundary, only for him to ignore it. Shocker.
And I like you as a friend.
So like a boyfriend? She said it! She said boy and friend! I'm her boyfriend!
Why you so stupid?
So we have to watch him ignore what the woman he likes is saying so that he can imagine them together. Only to keep proving how one-sided this whole thing is, the man starts crying at the mere idea that she might be with someone else. Cause why be happy for her when you can just make this about you?
Is there someone else? No, anything but that. I simply could not bear it!
Jenny is put in an impossible situation by trying to be nice to the creep she's being forced to call a friend. So she says that he just isn't her type. What Jenny wants is a nice robot boy to date, somebody like her. With Sheldon hearing this and deciding to respect the vision and move on with his life. Except no, of course he doesn't. Instead, he chooses to call her crazy.
A robot boy? If you're holding out for a robot boy, you're gonna have a lot of lonely Saturday nights.
Sheldon basically told Jenny to shut up and settle. And if you think that's harsh, let me play you the rest of this clip.
What I mean is, no robot could love you like I do.
Yeah, Sheldon can go fuck himself. Dude has been weird about her nonstop. The second she tries to say it's not happening, please just be my friend, he throws a tantrum, begging for a chance to know what he should change about himself, only for Sheldon to lash out at her the second she talks about the kind of boy she wants to end up with. Now, as someone who has had to tell a friend or two to stop being a dumbass and to stop ruining their relationships by waiting for a perfect 10, I know this speech. However, avoiding putting unrealistic expectations is one thing. What Sheldon is doing here is completely different, as what he's saying isn't about her, it's all about him. Dude can't stand that Jenny won't see him as an option. He hates that he can't have her, so his first instinct is to be a dick and belittle her, all while insisting that he is the best she can do. Like, this is incel behavior, as he comes off entitled to have her. Sheldon gets hysterical when he thinks she's already with someone, then insults her when she tells him what she might actually like. He's not being a good friend, he's not being a good partner, he's being an incel. Then to make that comparison even better, he starts being racist. I'm just gonna say racist.
What I mean is, no robot could love you like I do. Robots are cold and unfeeling. No, wait! I didn't mean all robots. You're not cold or unfeeling.
Sheldon really just said, no, wait, you're one of the good ones. Now this should be a deal breaker for any friendship. I don't care what excuse of insecurity people would use to explain it, but this didn't have to be the end of his character. Kid has got serious flaws, but I'm open to seeing him work through them. But that's not what he decides to do here. Instead, after hearing that she wants a robot guy, he decides that the rational thing to do is to dress up as a robot. Then, instead of doing something sympathetic like trying to win her heart using this persona, he decides to do something completely different. He decides that what he's going to do, the key to winning Jenny's heart, would be for him to use a disguise as a robot boy, is to be as mean to her as possible to ruin robot men for her so that she'll only date human ones in the future. So basically, Sheldon wore robot face to traumatize Jenny into changing her preferences.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, of all the scummy, creepy stunts Sheldon could have pulled, this is by far the worst. As it's just manipulation. There's no, seriously, there's no positive spin you can put on this whole thing, as his end goal is basically him just trying to control Jenny. That's it, cut and dry, this is actual emotional abuse. It's wild that this is the direction the show went with, and it's even wilder that Sheldon doesn't become a villain after it. Instead, he just lives to scheme another day, which is infuriating. As again, take out the real world implication of what he's doing. His plan still basically involves him dressing up like a silver douche, then demeaning Jenny, then stealing the credit for all of her work, with the only real reason his plan doesn't work being that Jenny is into this.
I'll love that robot forever.
Yeah, Jenny sees a bad boy and thinks she can fix him. Blowing up Sheldon's plan, he, of course, still finds a way to be scummy, using her own line about not wanting to hang out with lizards, but agreeing to the date, just so he can ghost her, with Sheldon then conveniently showing up to try and just say, hey, you're here, oh, what a coincidence, we should hang out. He is literally standing around waiting for her to hit rock bottom so that she'll have no choice but to pick him. Doesn't work, thank God, but Jenny still ends the episode hung up on her teen crush, and all Sheldon gets as punishment is his own helmet falling on top of him. But this episode starts bad and only gets worse for me because of its ending. And not because of the reveal, I could have guessed that. What makes it worse is that the show is sympathetic to Sheldon's situation.
She still likes you, and if I tell her the truth, it'll break her heart.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
This man dug himself into a hole, lied, and tried to then control the girl he claims to have feelings for. Then when she jumps at the idea that Silver Shell might not be a robot, we end up following him yelling and moping at how he's now trapped in a lie and can't reveal the truth or else it might hurt her. The music goes soft, he seems sad, and it feels like we're meant to be sympathizing with him. Because look, he's sad, he can't tell the truth, it'd break her heart, when really the only thing that'll be broken will be his spine, as she will beat his ass for what he did. This honestly is the most egregious part of this episode, that for everything Sheldon did, we're still supposed to feel partly bad for him here. The idea that there's now something noble in him now hiding this secret drives me up a wall, as no, he's just a piece of shit. Plus he doesn't ever own up to his actions, and Sheldon having to keep the secret goes out the window the second it's convenient for the story, as a few episodes later he is chomping at the bit to reveal his secret identity. This one moment I think encapsulates the dichotomy of Teenage Robot and how the writers handled Sheldon. The two things they wanted to do with him that were too contradictory for the story they were telling. The first one, the writers know what he was doing is bad. He's never written like, oh, what he's doing is cute. He's written to be a lovesick pest who makes Jenny cringe. That's a joke. He's pathetic. Sheldon will get a kind of comeuppance, but rarely is his actions truly punished in a meaningful way. And they can't do that because of the other thing they want Sheldon to be: Jenny's potential love interest.
Sheldon, I have a special gift for you. This is for the one person who never lost faith in me. Mwah.
He's terrible, but the show likes to play with the idea that they might end up together. He's a lonely, poor nerd, oh, maybe he'll get the girl. And for example, when Jenny got brainwashed by a rich twat ruining all the holidays, it's only Sheldon who still believes in her. And he gets a kiss at the end because of his faith. Benefits of staying obsessed, I guess. Sheldon is not taken seriously by the story, so his actions aren't. But making it worse is that the writing can't commit to doing either of these two things. We have so many little moments of Sheldon getting laughed at for being terrible, only for us to get moments at the end where it hints he might actually get the girl. But because he's on that incel villain shit, the audience that's older than 10 can recognize how terrible Sheldon's actions actually are. But the way the story writes Sheldon will have moments that conveys sympathy for him, so the younger members of the audience will fail to realize his ass should be in jail or at the bare minimum out of the friend group. Also, his evil plan to ruin Robot Men for Jenny actually ends up working.
This is how you treat your friends? I don't want to be on any team of yours. Come on, Don. We're leaving.
Yeah, one of the blessings of watching all of Sheldon's highlights back to back is that I get to realize just how little gets carried over from one moment to the next. You see, Silver Shell is now being used as a legitimate hero identity, trying to help Jenny from a fuck you size fly. The girl is swooning at the sight of him, while the rest of the friend group thankfully realizes what a buffoon the Silver Shell is.
Haha, not to worry.
I have the formula for victory, Atom Girl.
Atom Girl?
The dude can't even write his own lines. So the loser in Chrome ends up failing upwards, capturing the fly by accident. Jenny is still obsessed, revealing that her type of guys right now are the smooth ones, with Sheldon leaping onto this as the perfect opportunity to get her to get with him, using his fake self to lie, saying he knows the smoothest guy in town, getting Jenny's hopes up, only for it to turn out to be him.
Sheldon, are you alright?
Then, because karma's a bitch, thank God, but not enough of one, the local hottie Don ends up getting mistaken for the Shell's friend, with him agreeing to go on a date for completionism's sake. The man's not good, but somehow better than Sheldon. Realizing his evil plans have been foiled, Sheldon gets back on his villain grind of forcing Jenny to date him by sabotaging all of hers.
You may be smooth enough to hoodwink Jenny and turn her against her friends, but you don't fool me. I can see right through you.
Is the kettle sent to the pot?
Now, to be clear, Don is a vain fuckboy. He'll admit later that Jenny is nothing special, but this scenario still manages to make Sheldon look worse, if purely just because he is a massive hypocrite. Talking about how Don has hoodwinked Jenny, when the only one lying his ass off and manipulating people is Sheldon. Don didn't lie to get this date. Jenny jumped the gun and asked him out without double checking his credentials. He never once says, yeah, I know the Silver Shell. No, she just asks him out and he's like, okay. So while he's not good, Sheldon still here is far worse, and a lot of the time I don't know if the show fully is recognizing that. And that, plus his utter lack of self-awareness, drives me up a wall, as he really is sitting here accusing Don of his own crimes, with him never getting a moment where he realizes that's what's happening. Sheldon doesn't own up to this. He doesn't learn from the experience or recognize how he's been acting. All he gets is slapstick punishments, with him just walking off being bitter. Sheldon doesn't learn shit. He's right that Don sucks, but given everything Sheldon has done, Don being disgusted by Sheldon and calling him a loser, I end up kind of agreeing.
Sheldon, that loser from school, you actually know him? You should be careful none of his loserness rubs off on you.
Now in story, this is meant to be Don being out of pocket, having one irrational hatred of Sheldon, but based on everything we've seen, he's actually right. I hate saying that. Jenny throws Sheldon under the bus to impress a guy. Bad friend behavior, but let's be real, Sheldon isn't really her friend, now is he? This whole day just proves how entitled and shitty Sheldon can be. With it being here that I finally clocked one of the things that makes me just truly hate him. And it's how he constantly talks like he knows what's best for Jenny. From sabotaging this one date with Dawn, to sabotaging how she perceives robot men, insisting that he's her one true love.
What will it take for you to realize that you love me?
Bro, are you high? He sucks. Sheldon doesn't care about Jenny's wants or needs. He's only concerned with the fantasy of getting the girl. He is always taking, with next to no moments where he sacrifices his wants for hers. Instead, it's just constant sabotage while claiming to do it for them. Sheldon straight up attacks Dawn, trying to ruin his shoes so that he can out him as a bad person to Jenny, only for her to catch the boys fighting, so she deals with the pest, tells Sheldon that if this is how he treats his supposed friends, then she doesn't want to associate with him whatsoever. Which, so true, so perfect, rib to everything that happens after this. As after calling out the shell for valid reasons, that he does in fact treat his supposed friends like shit, Jenny realizes Dawn sucks too, so the episode ends with her deciding that smooth guys are overrated, and that maybe she should look elsewhere.
I need someone who's maybe not as smooth, but is genuine and sweet. Oh, hey Sheldon.
So yeah, Sheldon's plan to control her taste in men actually ends up succeeding in getting her to look in his direction. He successfully ruined the silver shell for her in a whole other genre of guys. This ending, it sucks. And I'm of two minds about it. On one hand, I'll always remember thinking that this ending implied that Jenny might start noticing Sheldon, which blah. But I also think the real gold ending, my favorite interpretation, is that her not knowing about where to find a sweet guy.
Hi, Jenny.
Yeah, someone sweet. But where am I ever gonna find someone like that?
Shots fired!
That's perfect. Because it would be a great dig at Sheldon for all the shit he's pulled in the last 10 minutes and every second he is on screen. Sheldon isn't genuine, he only thinks he's sweet, but while this would make for a great jab, it does feel like the rest of the show teeters between these two perspectives. Sometimes it wants us to see Sheldon as a confused sweetheart. Other times it wants us to laugh as he gets his comeuppance, that he doesn't get the girl. But that is the limit of his punishment. He doesn't actually get caught, so he just doesn't win, leaving Sheldon to keep being terrible for Jane to keep him in this friend group where he has long proven he shouldn't be. And is this not enough proof? Now, the last two horrors just not horrified you enough. Well, let's talk about the new episode, where Jenny actually finds her nice robot boy.
You heard about the super cool have-to-go must-be-there pizza party at Mesmer's tonight?
Yeah. You wanna go?
His name is Kenny. He was invented by her mom's nemesis. True Romeo and Juliet story, all is good till she realizes her new boyfriend is part dog. Now, this is initially a deal breaker, but she sucks up because Kenny, K9, popular. So she gets popular by proxy. Not heroic, but very teen of her. Things, they go okay. She's trying to live it up. So naturally, Sheldon ruins everything.
Are you crazy? Jenny doesn't eat people food. Don't you know anything about your own species?
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Convinced that something is wrong with Kenny because he's living his dream, Sheldon spies on the couple till he happens to stumble upon the fact that Kenny is literally dog-coded. Now, usually this trope of a guy with a crush sabotaging a boyfriend is played where the partner doesn't know the truth. See the Syntho clone from Kim Possible, where the girl doesn't know and Ron has some suspicions. But in this case, Jenny fucking knows. So Sheldon trying to out Kenny's best boy status is purely selfish. He's not doing this for her. She knows, and apparently she's dealing with it. There's no positive spin for him dressing up like a cat to make Kenny cause a scene. It just leads to him humiliating Jenny in the process. And when that's not enough, he tattles to Kenny's dad, causing him to get dragged back home. Sheldon's actions are unambiguously selfish. He is just doing this for the satisfaction of being right and making sure she's still single for him. Then when time comes for him to get walloped for this, it plays out like it always does. Jane doesn't find out the true extent of Sheldon's actions, and instead we settle for her smacking him with a shoe as he was serenading her as a cat.
I knew there was something wrong with him.
Now I'm convinced that even the show recognizes that if Jenny found out everything Sheldon has done, even for a sitcom, it would struggle to justify Jenny keeping him around. But this idea of comedy around Sheldon being a creep just sucks. As we know, it's just a gag, and he'll go right back to doing what he's always done next week. Now, to bring Panini back into the convo, people often talk about how if she were a guy, no one would find this funny because of the implication, which true, and I know what you're thinking, but no, Sheldon isn't the male version of Panini. However, he is the male version of this joke. See, let me explain, because I do find them differences mildly interesting. You see, with Panini, as a girl chasing a guy, her advances are allowed to be way more aggressive and physical. She is getting up in his business and dragging him to places he doesn't want to go. Panini is allowed to do this because she's a little girl, and the cultural biases associated with that makes her seem less threatening, allowing for this behavior to be seen as an exaggeration and unrealistic. She's allowed to get up in his face, ignore his boundaries, and get away with it despite everyone watching it happen. It's viewed as comedic slapstick, with that gender divide making it more palatable as it's viewed as more ridiculous than if it were the other way around. In contrast, while Panini is dominant, Sheldon is written to be more pathetic. The woman he's into is a super strong robot who can easily take him in a fight, so instead he's written to be this lovesick puppy, allowing him to obsess in a way that is comedically safe. Sheldon has to be the most pathetic beta male that has ever betaed so that this situation can be played for comedy. He is written to be a pest who is always around but never physically interacting with her really, as that would be the step too far. But the thing that gets missed, and the reason Sheldon doesn't have the same scale of hatedom that Panini has, is that by just being a pest who's around being weird, his actions get downplayed, as it doesn't match the typical TV depictions of abuse. It's an invisible factor, so people are willing to overlook it, even when it might be the more accurate depiction. Another part is that Sheldon being written as pathetic and getting bullied and hated by everyone, it invites sympathy. And here's the thing, it doesn't cancel out the bad things that he does, which is part of the disconnect. Sheldon doesn't seem threatening, so this lets the show think that it can get away with using his obsession for comedy. That Jenny has superpowers, that she's so much stronger than him, and therefore he is just, anything he can ever do to her is just an annoyance. But just because he can't physically hurt her doesn't mean that Jenny should put up with Sheldon's bullshit, or that what's happening isn't controlling, manipulative, and just terrible in every sense of the word. I'm convinced that the only real reason the story keeps him around is that he just wants to have a love interest in the back pocket in case they decide to go that direction. Then to top all of this off, Sheldon's actions use tropes that could be utilized sympathetically. Him wanting to out Kenny because he thinks he might be a danger to Jenny, that could work. He'd still suck for how he handled it, but you get why he would do such a thing. But no, Jenny knows, Sheldon knows that she knows, and then he still does it anyway. Even the Silver Shell persona, from the weird manipulative place it starts, it does move to the basic idea that it should have done in the first place. We're tired of not being noticed, Sheldon tries to use the shell to win her over so that he can reveal his real identity. It could work, but now having to deal with the fact that he lied. But the fact that he was so insecure he thought that this was the only way he could do it, by pretending to be someone else, yeah, we've gone on board with that before. It could work. However, by the time he tries to pull this, it is far too late, as we've seen what he is, a manipulative creep. Jenny just wanted a date to the Sadie Hawkins dance that wasn't Sheldon. She forgot how sick of the shell she was, so she agrees to go with him, only for Sheldon to be so obsessed with making the night perfect. For his grand reveal, he ends up spending the entire night fighting alien bikers and neglecting Jenny, ruining the dance for her. Then, because a lot of these episodes center Sheldon, and it's more about his shenanigans and comeuppance, Jenny gets to drop this one horrible line.
Lying I can forgive, but I will not be humiliated.
Which, first off, don't have her say she can forgive lying. In this context, she really shouldn't. Secondly, the fact that this episode ends with another Sheldon might have a shot line drives me up a wall yet again. As yeah, he's somehow successfully lowering her standards.
I'd rather date anyone than you.
Even Sheldon?
You make Sheldon look like Prince Charming.
Prince Charming? I'm the luckiest boy in the world.
Like, I hate this so much. Sheldon is one of the worst examples of an entitled teen I've seen in a while. Dude will be mad that he slaved away on an attachment for her and that she won't give him the time of day to give it to her because she's too busy saving the world. So naturally, rather than taking the L, improving himself, or addressing why does he feel like she owes him her time, he decides the best thing for him to do is to break into her house, steal her blueprints, all so that he can figure out what makes her tick and how to make her like him. I'd say I'm surprised, but there's no low I can't imagine him going at this point. But somehow he still found a way, as after all his whining, all the insane thing he's done to get with Jenny, he immediately folds for the first robot girl to bat her eyes at him, which thankfully this woman robs him.
Good for her.
This was just Jenny's arch nemesis Vexus, who used those blueprints to try and defeat Jenny. But I'm still in disbelief Sheldon switched teams so easily. Literally, the one thing I was gonna give him credit for was being a good little simp. But no, he's not even that. And somehow he has the audacity to say something this delusional.
Hold on there, Jen. You don't want to obliterate your one true chance at happiness.
It's amazing how a kid this insecure can have delusions of grandeur this big. My one consolation for this episode is that it's like the one time Sheldon's behavior is properly punished, as his thievery is caught, and we end the episode with her trying to beat him to a pulp. But again, he doesn't change.
What will it take for you to realize that you love me?
You are delusional.
Now, I think this was the episode where I had the most double takes, as this is the one where it's revealed that Sheldon has straight up tried to buy Jenny. Yeah, you heard that right, and I wasn't joking in the thumbnail, as apparently, in some point, off screen, he walked up to Jenny's mom and offered her cash for her daughter.
Sheldon, you've tried that already. Mrs. Wakeman says Jenny is not for sale.
Like, what am I supposed to do with this info? I already hate him so much. What else did the show think it can get away with?
The thing that motivates today's woman is jealousy.
Why are you like this?
So, Sheldon starts paying a popular to go out with him to make Jenny jealous. Only problem? She doesn't give a fuck. Instead, Jenny is happy for Sheldon and is also dealing with hearing loss on account of a loose screw. Rose spent his life savings for nothing. Then, because I can't have nice things like Sheldon dead, Jenny gets in the spirit of love and starts dating a rando. They all go on a double date, where on account of a garage sale, the rando has a gift Sheldon was holding off on giving Jenny, who loves it. Sheldon is naturally a little petty bitch about his own decisions, biting him in the ass, trying to grill the dude on where he got it, with him being unable to say he sold it, as that would invite questions of why. So Jenny and Sheldon get heated, their dates realize they prefer each other, with Jenny realizing later that the gift she loved so much was from Sheldon. So we get this scene.
I can't believe Sheldon made such a beautiful gift for me. He really is a sweet guy.
I beg to differ.
Thankfully, Jenny is back to being deaf, so whoops, she doesn't hear Sheldon's full speech, only the part where it makes it sound like he doesn't want to date her.
I still couldn't date you!
So, you date one popular person, and suddenly I'm not good enough for you.
You blew it, man.
3 seasons of lying, and we're still entertaining the idea that Sheldon can get the girl. To make him suffer because haha, I hate it. Also, the craziest part of this whole show and the dynamic is that I don't even think the rest of the friend group likes him. 99% of the time, they're like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? They tolerate his existence. Rather than sitting with them at the lunch table, he has to sit in a dog bed. Only real reason Jenny seems to even like hanging out with him is because of the repairs and makeovers. Jenny, Brad, sometimes Tuck, they tolerate him, but it never feels like they like him, which makes it crazy that he gets to stick around as his creeping is non-stop. So it makes the story feel like it just has Jenny get used to this, which is its own brand of ew. Truly, I hate this ship, I hate Sheldon, and if you don't, let me remind you of one thing. He's not 15, he's 105. Oh yeah, this is another Marco.
You'd never betray me like the real Jenny, would you?
Ugh, Sheldon.
Okay, cards on the table, I actually don't care about this. This is a Marco and Star versus where they keep bringing up the fact that the teen boy is actually mentally an adult, with his character and skills being derived from that fact. My life? It's more episodic. They never bring this shit up again. So it's easy to ignore as a one and done, and that it just it isn't canon. We can move on. We have so much other shit we can be mad and annoyed about. And if you want proof of that, take that big declaration from Sheldon about not being able to tell the secret, only for it to be ignored later. I think we're free to ignore some complications, as it's truly irrelevant to everything else going on. And we have enough problematic material to deal with. Thankfully, we're almost done covering this shit show, as in his last major appearance, Sheldon admits to constantly stalking Jenny. Not to her, that would mean he'd have to take some semblance of accountability. No, instead he reveals this to the feds, who allow him to monetize his hobby by getting paid to follow Jenny around. This was a choice, also a choice to make him a literal stalker, where otherwise this was assumed, but the little narc ends up causing a bunch of innocent robots to get put into a concentration camp, helping Jenny to save the robots later as he realized that he's been helping the bad guys. He does look cool here, even gets a kiss from Jenny and thanks. Then he admits what he did.
You knew about these jerks! You were spying on me!
That's what we've been waiting for!
That's basically it for this ship. The show got tragically canceled, no real conclusion to the romantic subplot, though the creator has admitted that he never really cared about Jenny's love life, but did joke about Sheldon and Jenny getting together. So maybe it's a good thing we didn't get that.
I love you, Jenny Wakeman!
Sheldon, he's awful. He can be a little funny at times. Seeing him get his ass beat is cathartic a wee bit, but I don't think the show ever fully realized how terrible he actually was. When it came time to get involved, it always picked the option that made him look worse, but then rarely did the show grapple or have him grapple with his behavior. Instead, the show would just play it off, while chuckling that he's just some sad, lovesick puppy when no, he's an entitled, emotionally controlling creep. The fact that the series starts with me feeling bad that Sheldon is getting bullied, but by his third appearance, it made me wish he was bullied harder, which is an achievement, and I'm not pro-bullying. I'm just anti-him. The characters are supposed to be bad. The bullies who pick on Sheldon for just being a weak geek, they end up feeling like they're in the right for hating him. Everything about Sheldon's crush is a joke that manages to be worse than Panini's, as it's just him being shitty. The show gives him a slap on the wrist, but never for what he actually did. And it does this because the story needs to justify Jenny keeping him around. We got weird hope spots where the show winked at us that it might happen, but every single episode, Sheldon just added more fuel to the he sucks fire.
I didn't get a hug.
Wow, you suck.
I'm fine dealing with a subpar romantic subplot. They were most of my childhood. But there's subpar and then there's heinous behavior, as this just isn't one joke. It's a series of gags centered around a guy we're meant to see as pathetic, all his failed attempts at getting a girl, only for his attempts to not be sympathetic. This is not poor guy, but he had this coming. It's he sucks. Hit him again. The fact that the show had Jenny as this indomitable figure that just had to play off and live with Sheldon being around is weird in hindsight. The fact that he never feels he's part of the group, that when they have the giant family hug at the end of the special and he is excluded, light of my life. But also proves that he's just here to do a bit, and it makes it so easy to not care and to really not care for him. My Life as a Teenage Robot is a great show. It brought me lots of laughs and tons of great action. However, Sheldon was someone I soured on pretty quickly after a brief instance of rooting for him. But with hindsight, damn did this not age well, like holy shit. This might be the roughest thing to come out of Nick's early O's, and I am so happy that they never ended up together. This one is going the Hall of Shipping Infamy. I don't think it will ever be topped in cartoons. Anime is its own nightmare.